Good day everyone, and I want to welcome you to this YouTube channel, Discovery Africa TV. So guys, whatever part you're watching us from within the country, let us read it at the comment section of the video. So guys, while we are actually still within all of what is happening in the country between the federal government of Nigeria and the current governor of Rivers State in person of Similai Fubara, and all of what is going on in the Senate between distinguished Senator President, in person of Senator Godswill Akpabio, and even the suspended senator from Kogi Central in person of distinguished Senator Akpoti Uduaghan. A number of people has been coming out since all of these things happening. So, and also alongside what you're going to be watching in today's video is all of what is currently happening in Rivers State. Yes, Rivers State, Rivers State, Rivers State. You just have to watch this video to the end, and please don't forget to subscribe and drop your point of view at the comment section of the video. Several questions Nigerians is asking out there, and even most especially people from Rivers State, is that yes, often did we know that issues are going on in Rivers State, all the political crises, the insecurity, and several other things that is happening that would have actually demanded or probably led to this state of emergency or whatever it is being called. But the question is, there is someone that the president failed to address. Why the president failed to address all these things, and he actually cast all the blame on the governor, Similai Fubara. There is someone that should also be blamed, but was not blamed, and the president didn't say anything about this person, and that is in person of Nyesom Wike. Why does the president fail to address Nyesom Wike, and why does he fail to blame Nyesom Wike, or why does he fail to suspend Nyesom Wike, knowing fully well that all of these things going on would not have actually happened in the first place if Nyesom Wike didn't started it? Should we say it was started by Fubara, or it was started by the demands of Nyesom Wike, in quotes? So guys, those are the things Nigerians are saying, that justice must prevail. And even while several people is actually saying how dare that the president shouldn't have gone to the extent of suspending the governor. While some are saying either it is constitutional or it is not constitutional, the president shouldn't have gone to that extent. And even if you want to suspend the governor, someone like Nyesom Wike should also receive his own breakfast. Not just give the breakfast to Similai Fubara and his deputy and all the speakers and just think that things will go on amicably. Some felt this is injustice and things shouldn't have been done this way. And back to one of the things that was said by Senator Uduaghan in one of her interviews of recent, where she said senators are cultists, they are full of cult people and all of that. From all of the allegations she actually presented against Senator Godswill Akpabio, sexual harassment and several things like that. This woman has never kept quiet since all of these things have been happening. And several Nigerians has been asking that if of a true, all of what you are saying is actually correct, give us evidence. She took you to hotel, give us evidence. She harassed you, give us evidence. So why these two cases is still on, the Senate President Godswill Akpabio versus Senator Uduaghan Akpoti, and the federal government of Nigeria versus Similai Fubara, or should we say Wike Tinubu versus Similai Fubara, anyone you want to call it. So guys, watch the rest of the video. This is Discovery Africa TV. Peace.
I made an allegation of sexual harassment against the President of Nigerian Senate, Senator Godswill Akpabio, on the 5th day of March 2025, and the very next day I was suspended for 6 months. I believe my suspension was illegal, it's unjust, and it's just a way of silencing me. Yes, they did mention that I was suspended on accounts of gross misconduct. But can they please provide exactly what the gross misconduct is that amounts for 6 months suspension the day after I submitted a petition? I was suspended because of that petition, not because of any gross misconduct. Let's talk about the gross misconduct that have happened in the Nigerian chambers. I was only told to move, and I refused to move my seat because I deserve to be notified. I deserve to be given a chance to explain why I should retain my seat. But you see, I have seen in that chambers where men fight, where senators throw items at each other, curse each other, shout at each other, but they were not suspended. Why? Because they are men? There's this culture of silence, harassment, and fear, intimidation that is intertwined with our culture, whereby a woman is supposed to sit pretty, to be seen only and not heard. I experienced sexual harassment. over the past 1 year in the hands of the Senate President. And this sexual harassment, because I refused to yield to his demands, turned into malice, whereby my rights and privileges as a senator were being deprived. I found the courage to speak up. Yes, the breaking point was that moving me from that seat. Silently, I have had to endure a whole lot.
Are you able to tell us the allegations that you are making against him then?
Things got difficult for me. I was always complaining, I have this motion to pass. He's not letting me. And my husband will actually walk to him because they are friends. My wife has a very important bill. Her constituency need this. Why don't you give her a chance to speak? And he'll tell me, okay, next time. So he deliberately kept on denying me this. And each time I walk to him alone, he'll tell me, you know what? Right here, I'm the chief presiding officer of the National Assembly. So you have to please me, make me happy to get these privileges. And that happened several times. And because I refused, it developed into malice.
Reactions have trailed, and I'll take Atiku Abubakar's tweet. In a lengthy tweet, Atiku wrote on X, "The declaration of a state of emergency in Rivers State reeks of political manipulation and outright bad faith. Anyone paying attention to the unfolding crisis knows that Bola Tinubu has been a vested partisan actor in the political turmoil engulfing Rivers. His blatant refusal or calculated negligence in preventing this escalation is nothing short of disgraceful. Beyond the political scheming in Rivers, the brazen security breaches that led to the condemnable destruction of national infrastructure in the state land squarely on the president's desk. Tinubu cannot evade responsibility for the chaos his administration has either enabled or failed to prevent. It is an unforgivable failure that under Tinubu's watch, the Niger Delta has been thrown back into an era of violent unrest and instability, undoing the hard-won peace secured by the late President Umaru Yar'Adua. Years of progress have been recklessly erased in pursuit of selfish political calculations. If federal infrastructure in Rivers has been compromised, the president bears full responsibility, punishing the people of Rivers State just to serve the political gamesmanship between the governor and Tinubu's enablers in the federal government is nothing less than an assault on democracy and must be condemned in the strongest terms. An assault on democracy, Ayo. That is how Atiku Abubakar has termed this unconstitutional declaration of a state of emergency in Rivers State. Well, before I come to you guys, another reaction that trailed Tinubu's declaration of a state of emergency in Rivers State is a 2013 video of former President Goodluck Jonathan when he declared a state of emergency in 3 northeastern states, Adamawa, Borno, and Yobe, over worsening insecurity, well, according to former Attorney General of the Federation, Mohammed Bello Adoke. Jonathan did not suspend the governors of the states because it was unconstitutional. He dedicated a whole chapter to this issue in his memoir, Burden of Service. Well, here's that video.
Following recent developments in the affected states, it has become necessary for government to take extraordinary measures to restore normalcy. After wide consultations and in exercise of the power conferred on me by the provisions of Section 305, Subsection 1 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, as amended, I hereby declare a state of emergency in Borno, Yobe, and Adamawa states. Accordingly, the Chief of Defense Staff has been directed to immediately deploy more troops to these states for more effective internal security operations.
All right, Dr. Vati, you were trending with that video because you delivered a brilliant submission on the reason why the president did not, suspend the 3 governors at the time, because obviously it is unconstitutional. And like I said, the former Attorney General of the Federation, in his book, I urge the viewers to grab a copy of the book, Burden of Service, The Reminiscences of Nigeria's Former Attorney General, published in 2019 by Kling Street, London and New York. Well, a reaction followed that announcement, a declaration of emergency back in 2013. And this excerpt from the Daily Trust, according to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu at the time, if we can pull up that excerpt from Daily Trust, Tinubu, who was a former Lagos state governor, had said in that excerpt that the imposition of emergency rule in 3 states is a dangerous trend to the art of governance and a deliberate ploy to subvert constitutional democracy. He said in a statement from his media office yesterday that by declaring a state of emergency in Borno, Yobe, and Adamawa states, President Jonathan intimidated and emasculated the governors of these states. Imagine that at that time.
Like
yes, absolutely. And he also said that Jonathan's intention was to muzzle the elected governments of the states for what is clearly a display of unpardonable mediocrity. And guess what? Diabolic partisanship geared towards 2015. Just like what is actually happening. And that's the conversation, Rufai, that this whole, suspension, removal of office, if you may call it, is geared towards, the 2027. It's politically motivated. Dr. Bati, you have said it's unconstitutional. Former Attorney General of the Federation has said it's unconstitutional. I mean, it's a huge conversation, and I feel like we're going to be here speaking. We're hoping that the President, the National Assembly, and the Attorney General of the Federation is listening to Nigerians, because this really is trampling on our democracy. Let me just take this incident, because this is what the conversation is all about whether or not Governor Fubara acted properly before the suspension or removal, or whether or not it is Wike's fault. But you know that we saw a video of Governor Fubara threatening violence against members of the Rivers State House of Assembly if they proceeded with the impeachment, has surfaced online. Let's take a look at that video. I think that the governor made these remarks weeks ago during the inauguration of the state quarters in Port Harcourt.
In as much as I don't subscribe to violence, when the time comes for us to take a decision, I will lead the cause for that decision. Let me say it again, and let me say it again. I'm not scared of anything. The worst that will happen is me to leave the office. It's not. Am I leaving the earth? Is it going to stop me from existing? So I'm not even bothered about that. But the right thing must be done and must be said when the opportunity is given to us.
Now, you heard him there. He said the worst that could happen is for him to leave the office. And what has happened now? I mean, it appears that he actually ushered in this sort of removal from office. I mean, that video is actually trending. But another thing that President Tinubu had said during his nationwide broadcast was because of, there's this sort of, insecurity, as he claimed, that is one of the reasons why he had declared that state of emergency. Well, on Monday, we saw an explosion that rocked a section of the Trans-Niger pipeline in Bodo community in Gokana local government area of Rivers State. The Trans-Niger pipeline is a key federal transport line supplying crude oil to the Bonny export terminal in the state and plays a crucial role in crude oil export with a capacity of 1.25 million barrels per day. Well, here's a video that surfaced on Tuesday morning showing thick black smoke billowing into the sky as flames rapidly spread into the mangrove.
What's happening in Ogoni again? Gokana Bonny Road by Julius Berger Junction. What is happening? Look at gas flaring. What's happening in Share and Ogoni again? What is it? Would Ogoni people die for you people? What is it? It's too bad. It's too bad of you. Why? No.
It remains unclear what really caused that explosion, and I also heard that there were other explosions that are being underreported at this point. Meanwhile, a video showing multiple military vans filled with armed operatives heading towards the Rivers State Government House in Port Harcourt, just moments after President Tinubu declared a state of emergency, has surfaced online. Let's take a look. State of emergency in full glare. Let me take this reaction from Bothered Bat before I come to you guys. He wrote, "The Democrat invites the military to power in Rivers State. Nigeria, federal government is in charge of securing oil pipeline, but President Tinubu blames Governor Fubara for not deploying security to protect the pipeline. It is fairly clear that Wike and Tinubu have a script. Can you doubt that?" Rufy on fire.
So I think the constant word we have repeated here is a French word that, as I had many years ago when I was trying to learn French, was used to be the longest word in French. But I don't know if it's still the longest. I think there are other words that are longer now, which is anticonstitutionnellement. That used to be the longest word in French. And now we have seen that the Constitution now also pushes it to the National Assembly. But I make bold to say that I don't trust this National Assembly. They are rubber stamp. The same National Assembly that's not been able to investigate the Senator Natasha scenario. And what we are hearing now is that there are plans to be able to muscle her and every probably recall her. Is it the same National Assembly that met with the president before he went out to announce this? So they were in the know. The president had told them before. Yeah. They met and they all agreed before they went to announce it. Is it the same National Assembly that you see will get 2/3? That's why when the Yinaya Abaribe was being interviewed on television yesterday, he couldn't say much because I'm sure Mr. Abaribe can speak for himself, but he cannot speak for the leadership of the National Assembly. And like I said before, if you think that this National Assembly will reverse what President Tinubu has said as regards the state of emergency, then probably you think you are so delusional enough to think that Osimhen is a striker for South African national team. I don't think so. I think this will be allowed to go. I think this is the script they have constantly played. I think President Tinubu was very unfair and very biased in his speech yesterday. In fact, what he said was a playbook from the already printed impeachment notice that was circulated. President Tinubu did not call Wike to order. In all fairness, we played a video of Fubara threatening. What about Wike's own threat video? So we are showing all of this to the world because it will be on record. The same President Tinubu that spoke against things like this, he is now the one in front and center doing all of this that we complain about. So he has now become an albatross of some sort to the so-called democracy. And I use the word so-called he fought for because I don't think when these leaders act, they even understand the tenets of democracy. Can't President Tinubu tell Wike enough is enough?
Those are the questions out
like
there.
Like Ateno Peter's side did put out today, what is really going on between Wike and Tinubu? The earlier we know it, the better it is for this country. And all of this, don't be deceived, is for 2027.
Right.
Supremacy and power.
All right. Dr. Abati.
Congrats, Mr. Wike. You've won your Pyrrhic victory. Enjoy it.
Okay, I align myself with those who think that this is history repeating itself in a farcical manner. That President Tinubu, as a leader of the opposition in 2013, May 2013, the exact date, 16 May 2013, was reported by Daily Trust, and saying that President Jonathan declaring, state of emergency in Adamawa, Yobe, and Borno states and certain local governments was, launching a dangerous trend in the art of governance and a deliberate ploy to subvert constitutional democracy. I think we've made the same point this morning, that this is precisely what President Tinubu himself has done. Absolutely. So at one level, those who say the internet does not forget, they've been proven right. Because you say one thing 20 years ago, the internet will bring it back. One positive side of social media. The second point is, I had already dealt with some of the legal issues relating to Section 1, Sub 2, Section 11, Section 305, Section 188. I will not repeat myself. What is the way forward? The way forward, as my Lord Justice Owade retired, was pointed out, was that now the ball is in the court of the National Assembly, because it's not a unilateral thing. The President of Nigeria has no unilateral authority to declare a state of emergency in any part of Nigeria. That will amount to dictatorship. It will still have to go to the National Assembly. Now, this National Assembly must see the wisdom in rejecting the proposal as presented by President Tinubu. President Tinubu himself, having violated sections of that Section 305, because there is nowhere in that constitution that it is said that, the president can take over authority of Rivers State. Only the National Assembly can do so under Section 11. So the National Assembly will need 2/3 in the Senate, 2/3 in the House of Reps. These are our lawmakers that nobody is sure of what they are doing, whether they are making laws in our interest or not. And the two leaders of the National Assembly, they were even at the pre-declaration of state emergency meeting. Would they have the courage to stand firm?
That's the question.
Number two, as part of the way forward, I think Vice Admiral Ibakete Ibas, retired, should act as a citizen and patriot and reject this appointment. He will have put his name on the very positive side of history by behaving as a man that can be counted upon as an officer and a gentleman if he proceeds to say, look, I don't want to be part of this. Otherwise, we will think that he has accepted the appointment for other consideration.
The Lord has done
I don't want to use the word stomach. Yeah. And nobody should come forward and say they are doing Thanksgiving service for Ibagete Ibas because he has been given an illegal appointment within the purview of the 1999 Constitution.
Right.
Number three, interested parties, people who have the right local standing in Rivers State, can go to court. I don't want to act as a court of law and say these are the people who have the locus. Now, when we had a similar situation in 2004 in Plateau State, some people under the auspices of the Lagos State government, I think they were led in that case by Professor Ben Nwabueze, went all the way to the Supreme Court, and the matter was determined in 2006 by Plateau State government versus and others versus the Attorney General of the Federation. Now, I will need time to again look at that case to find out what was decided. But that case was decided on technical grounds. Part of the reason why people raise questions about the judiciary. But I think that this is a decision, a unilateral decision as of this moment by the President of Nigeria that should not be allowed to stand.
Absolutely.
And then, of course, the people of Rivers State, we can only appeal to them, not to sabotage the Nigerian state, which was the point that Waziri Adamawa Atiku Abubakar was making. That what this has done is to take us back to the pre-Yaradua, Umaru Yaradua period, when there was chaos in the River State, and that had to be managed with amnesty program, with meetings, with militants. These militants, if they come back, and already you talked about explosions in River State, that will be at a great cost to Nigeria. So there are certain other consequential steps that can be taken to nip the, the threat of a blowout in River State in the board.
All right.
And, you know, I don't know who advised President Tinubu, and that was why I said the Attorney General himself owes Nigerians an explanation.
Well said.
How did he interpret the law that he arrived at the decision that President Tinubu has the powers to suspend governor, suspend legislature, suspend deputy governor,
Absolutely.
something that President Jonathan did not do.
Right.
That has to be reiterated.
Well said, Dr. Abati. Well said. Ayo, I'm sure I have to give you the floor also to speak, but I also wanted to make mention of what Dr. Abati had said about retired naval officer Ibot, how do you call his name? Ibot Ebas. Rejecting that position. I mean, I don't know how he's going to reject that position. This is where I want to go with it. And you had seen the videos, the pictures of, you know, his sort of relationship with the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Governor Wike. It's not governor.
Well, former Governor Wike.
Governor Wike. We're seeing those pictures circulating online. I mean, what really is going on? Is he going to go for that Thanksgiving service?
The Lord has done it finally.
I said earlier that even if he doesn't organize Thanksgiving, Wike will organize on his behalf.
On his behalf.
Because Wike has shown that he likes Thanksgiving services, especially when we have, after the Supreme Court ruling, he did have a Thanksgiving service with his people. And then, nobody should host him for a testimonial, because this is not what we're looking at. And I really am grateful that Dr. Abati brought that up, even though, yes, we can laugh about it, that it's nigh impossible for that to happen. But when are we going to see people who would actually stand up for Nigeria in our own time? Not only for the Vice Admiral retired, but also for the National Assembly. I think it's quite sad for us to sit here this morning and assume, and probably rightly so, that it's just going to be mere motions this morning, and they wouldn't look at or consider the legality of what has happened, the professionals, the analysts who have come out to speak about it, the people they're supposed to be representing in the House, in the Assembly, who have said this is unconstitutional. It almost seems as if, like, everyone has said, a script has been written, and that is sad for our democracy. That even if the role of the legislature is to check the executive, but if we have both working in tandem, then what is the hope for democracy in Nigeria? If we cannot rely, we've talked about the judiciary, we've faulted some of the rulings in recent times. Okay, that's one arm of government. Now the National Assembly is in the eye of the storm. We are saying that, they will pass it. That's another problem. So it means that we are running a one-man state. Let us just call a spade a spade. So once, before you call it Baba Sokpe Krisi. So once one person has made a decision, whether it's right or not, and this sets a bad precedent, how do we build a nation like this, where the rule of law, where we do not rely on the Constitution for how things are done, and someone makes a decision, and no one in the arms of government where they've been elected can check this? It's really sad. And finally, the people I feel sorry for the most are the people of Rivers State.
Absolutely.
All this while, we've talked about how they've not been able to enjoy governance in their states because of this fight between Godfather and Godson. And now there's a state of emergency declared in their state. What I'm hoping is that this is not a bad move by the president that would further escalate tensions rather than douse tensions, which should be the intention of what his decision is about.
Well said, you all. Thank you all for your submission. Nigeria belongs to all of us, and the people of Rivers deserve good governance. We'll follow up on the story. We'll take another story now. Members of the House of Representatives have donated 705 million naira from their salaries to support President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's humanitarian efforts. The donation is set to represent a 6-month 50% salary deduction by the lawmakers. The contribution was announced on Monday night when President Tinubu hosted House leadership and members for iftar at the new banquet hall in the presidential villa in Abuja. I mean, this story, we heard about it last year, and now they've come up with 705 million naira for humanitarian efforts. There's a lot of reactions that have trailed this story: accountability, transparency, and this humanitarian effort. Do we even have a ministry at this moment? Do we? I mean, do you? Is it still the one with Better Edu that had before and has moved? And how have they now fared, Dr. Abati?
Okay, very quickly. Now, I think it was 6 months ago that the House of Reps decided that because of the economic hardship in the country, they would, contribute 50% of their, salaries over a period of 6 months as their own sacrifice for them to support the administration. Well, this 705 million that they have now presented to President Tinubu, I assume that it will be probably the savings, the 50% sacrifice that they said they were going to make. However, the bigger question, why this looks like a good gesture on the surface of it, the bigger question that Nigerians are talking about is that we have an overpaid, overpampered, underworked, poorly productive, if you like, National Assembly. And there are persons who have been arguing that we have to take a second look at the presidential system of government, which is very expensive. Part of the expensive nature of it is the big money that our lawmakers, either at the state level or at the federal level, that they, collect, increasing the cost of governance. In some other jurisdictions, serving in parliament is a honorable thing. Yes, as it is also in Nigeria. And it's a part-time appointment. People have made recommendations that people who serve in parliament in Nigeria should be people who have jobs, not jobless people who are looking for where they can earn a living. And that going into government should not be a profession. So the recommendation is that, legislative work should be a part-time engagement. And that, in fact, Nigeria should look at having a unicameral legislature whereby the House of Reps and the Senate will be merged. And we will have fewer people who are truly serving people, not people who are collecting so much money, allowances. Some people have to eat constituency allowances. They have to eat salaries. They will collect exotic cars. By the time you do all the calculation, 705 million will look like, mere pittance. Nigerians do not expect to have legislators who are adopting a philanthropic approach to public welfare.
That's it.
The philanthropic approach to governance, is not the best option. Yeah. We don't want a government that says we are running a philanthropic system. We want a government that functions in the best interest of the people. This House of Reps now has become a philanthropic society. No. The expectation is that they will do more than that.
House of Philanthropy. All right, shall I move on to the next story? Okay, go ahead and I'll take
For me, what I just wanted to say is this.
Go ahead.
Why go back to give President Tinubu that humanitarian money? There are many initiatives that they could have plowed it into. Many charities. Take, for instance, if they had highlighted over 1,000 charity organizations across the country and spread it, or even if it's 100 and spread it across, I'll have been happy about that. And secondly, this small dash from their salary. Hope they should also include their allowances. Because their salary is nothing. Their salary is nothing. It's their allowances that is the main thing. So if they took small dash out of their salary, they are basic.
Okay.
So just to say how much each House of Rep member contributed, if we calculated at 360 lawmakers, they contributed 326,388 naira each. Was deducted for them per month. So per month, so it lays credence to, last year they were arguing about what their remuneration was. They said it was just a little over 600,000. So this lays credence to that, gives credence to that, that's how much they are earning.
All right. Please, with due respect, they should do better. And
it's
investigate how much they are collecting, a proper breakdown.
Exactly.
And also the monies they collected.
Exactly.
In their email, the prayers they received in their email.
Well, it will be nice. 705 million naira could go a long way for some, projects. It will be nice for the humanitarian ministry to show us, accountability, especially where that money is going.